to work. We are now on item 26, timely use of funds. Robert.
Thank you. Commissioners, tab 26 is an action item for the Commission to consider if it should retain its current timely use of funds policies as specified in the Commission-adopted competitive program guidelines. This book item is in response to requests from June's Commission meeting. The Commission was asked to re-examine its timely use of funds provisions. The Delivery Committee met on July 23rd to discuss the issue. The committee requested that an agenda item be placed on the Commission's August agenda for the Commission to reaffirm its timely use of funds provisions as they currently exist in the Commission's adopted competitive program guidelines. Under tab 26, the book item memorandum provides a history of the timely use of funds provisions and indicates that such provisions are statutorily mandated only for the STIP program. The new competitive programs, such as ATP, congested corridors, and trade corridors, have no statutory mandated timely use of funds provisions. Through the guidelines development process, the Commission chose to include the same basic timely use of funds provisions as required in the STIP program. Timely use of funds provisions are an important component to accountability, which is a requirement of SB1. Staff recommends the Commission continue to use the existing timely use of funds policies as specified in the Commission-adopted competitive program guidelines.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Arp. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. We'll move to item 27. Robert.
Thank you. Commissioners, tab 27 is an action item for the Commission to amend its SB1 Accountability and Transparency Guidelines. The amendment clarifies the Commission's expectation that agreements and contracts between the Department and recipient agencies reflect project scope, cost, and schedules on all projects which were programmed and allocated by the Commission. Agreements should reflect the scope, cost, and schedule as anticipated benefits as set forth in the project application and programmed by the Commission. Project costs reimbursed are to be only made to costs arising and carry out the scope, cost, and schedule as set forth in the project application and programmed by the Commission. Staff recommends approval of this item.
Move it.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Kehoe. Any discussion? Yes.
Has there been any issues come up? I know we had an issue with some municipalities, a certain municipality in the southern part of the valley. Any other issues where this would come into play yet?
Yes, there was one local agency where an agreement wasn't consistent with what was programmed by the Commission, whereas most of our documents we kind of reference this should be consistent, just nowhere within our accountability guidelines actually said it. So this is just to clarify.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mitch, did you want to add?
Yeah, I think there was an issue that we're aware of with one in the Central Valley, as you mentioned, and another one in Southern California.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. We'll move on. Robert, item 28.
Thank you. Commissioners, tab 28 is an information item to provide an update on the development of guidelines for State Route 710 surplus property proceeds reinvestment program. SB 416 requires the Commission, in consultation with the affected communities and LA County MTA, adopt guidelines that describe the policy standards, criteria, and procedures for programming and allocating funds resulting from the sale of State Route 710 surplus properties. Staff will hold a workshop in Southern California in September. The workshop will be open to all interested stakeholders and will provide an overview of enabling legislation and seek input to inform the guideline development. Release of draft guidelines is anticipated for November 2018 and will be presented at the December 2018 Commission meeting. Staff anticipates presenting final guidelines for your consideration of adoption at the January 2019 meeting.
Okay, that was an information item.
Oh, sorry, yes,
correct?
that concludes
Yeah.
my update, yes.
Okay.
Too many action items,
Uh,
sorry.
Madam
Okay,
Chair,
yes,
yeah,
Commissioner.
the 710's been around for a long time, and I think most of the commissioners, some of the commissioners know about it and know the history, and I'm wondering if it would be appropriate to have an update and a little history on the 710 for maybe some of the newer commissioners. It's up to you.
Should we bring Anthony in to present?
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think that before we take some action, it would be good to have at least some kind of a summary, because this journey has been going on for decades and decades, I believe. Oh, okay. Commissioner Burke, who has served the people of California from lots of different perches, has so maybe Yvonne would like to give the Okay, well, we'll ask our staff then to prepare a fairly concise, brief summary. Director?
Would the brief come in December when we present the draft guidelines before?
Commissioners, what I would recommend as staff is that I work with the secretary, undersecretary, as well as the director Berman on when is the right time to bring in a presentation on this, and it should be, I would think fairly soon, whether it would be October, December, but I will work with the two of them right there and Secretary Annis as well, and we'll bring that back in, because I think as part of that, we'll want to hear about the property sales too as well. So, does that
Shouldn't
work?
hold up the guidelines, though.
No,
Just
No.
no.
No, the guidelines are focused on categories and process, not about, yep, yes.
Okay, so keep working, I think was the direction that you were given, so.
Will do. Thank you.
Good, good. Okay, thank you, Robert. We'll move to item 29. Teresa.
Commissioners, item 29 is an information item. This is the 2018 report of STIP County and Interregional Shares Balances, otherwise known as the Orange Book. You should have received your copy with your meeting book materials from Doug. I know you have it right next to your bedside, the best book. Right. Statute requires the commission keep a record of county share balances and to make the June 30th balances available each year to regions no later than August 15th. This year's report was transmitted to the regions on August 1st, as well as placed in our website. For each county share and for the interregional share, the Orange Book reports the shares available, including all adjustments and a reconciliation to the previous book. All projects programmed from the shares, including any allocations made within the last fiscal year, and all unprogrammed share balances. We do occasionally, very rarely, find errors in our records, and this is the opportunity to work with the regions and identify those errors, and so then they will be reflected in the next Orange Book. And again, this is just an information item. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, we are going to move on to Garth, item number 30.
Sure. Commissioners, tab 30 is an informational item. Stacy Mortensen, the Executive Director for the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission and also the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, will provide an overview of the Altamont Corridor Express, or commonly known as ACE. ACE provides rail passenger service between Stockton and the San Jose areas. And with that, turn it over to Stacy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm pleased to be here, although I think when I grow up, I want to be Tim, because working with drones and the ground penetrating trauma-nomometers is glorious. So I'm pretty excited about that. But back to rail. My agency is fortunate enough, challenged enough to manage two of the major rail systems in the state. One is the commuter rail, the ACE commuter rail. The other is the San Joaquin's, kind of the little known rail system in the state, runs up and down the spine, and then has two fingers that go into Oakland and Sacramento. But we're very fortunate that we are working in that mix of some great services. This slide makes me perspire a little bit. Northern California has a lot going on. There you see a conglomeration of high-speed rails plans, Caltrain's electrification plan and extensions further south. You see the San Joaquin route, the Capital Corridor route, and the ACE route along with its extension. So in Northern California, we have so much work going on, and you see in the middle of the slide, a big SB1. I need to tell you, so much of this work is going on because of SB1, because of TIRSIP, and then the local transportation sales taxes. When I dig into everybody's finance plan, those are critical pieces of each. And one thing I think doesn't get talked about very much, and maybe Debbie and some others are keeping it a secret, but in SB1, the Intercity Rail Program divided a pot into 4 equal shares of the pie. 3 of those pieces of the pie are being eaten up by the San Joaquins, the Capitals, and the Pacific Surfliners down in Southern California. But there's a 25% piece set aside for emerging corridors, and that's usually rare. If you're emerging, you're usually scratching and clawing, and then people tell you, come back and when we do the next transportation measure. So for the services like expansions to Gilroy, Monterey, Salinas, Santa Cruz, I think Coachella Valley, Inland Empire, those systems actually have something to look to that makes their programs a little bit more real than they've ever been before. A little bit about ACE, we're not very big. We run, I wish we were, and we're getting there, but we run 4 trains. And I have to give a big appreciation to Commissioner Gardino, so I'll date myself. 22 years ago, I went to him with my little head in my hand, and I told him I was having trouble in the Silicon Valley getting approvals to move ACE forward. And, he was a big shot. Well, you're still a big shot. But he was a big deal. And he extended his hand, and he cut through all the crap and hurdles that I was facing and really made it possible, where people around just thought it was, crazy that we were able to get it done. But here we are, running 4 trains. You can see they're very condensed into the peak period. Our trains start in Stockton at 4:20, and the last train rolls out at 7:05. When you think about that from the highway side, and when you look at the ridership in a minute, we're really peeling off about 3,500 riders off of I-205, 580, 680 every day, that if we flooded them back on, even though we're small, that would make a very big difference in the highway travel experiences. And we run weekdays. We don't yet run on weekends. CalSTA has given us some support to do that as soon as we get our positive train control system done, but we will make a foray into Saturday service, both from deeper in the valley and from the Stockton area a little bit to the north. If you do look at the schedules, you see our riders have a long day. It's about a 13-hour day, and we have quite a few that drive half hour, 45 minutes, an hour just to get to the station. So these are people that really are troopers in trying to earn an income and make a difference for their families. This is just a look at one of the last couple days. For the total, 6,372 riders each way. I will note, Great America, you see down there the big numbers, that's about equal to the Caltrain Mountain View station. So, at some of our stations, we are a big player. We're having a lot of trips through there. Great America, surprisingly, was built for the Capital Corridor years ago, and it was viewed to be a very tiny station. So it really would have accommodated about 100 people at a time. And we're dumping 1,000 people and boarding 1,000 people at a time in that location. So it is a very, very big deal, a big jumping off point in the Silicon Valley, and it's our biggest station. So we do not see that as small potatoes at all. Just a quick bit, going back though, I think a lot of you have heard about the Facebook effort and the Dumbarton Bridge and putting the rail bridge back in place. One of the things I've really observed over this last 5 to 10 years, when the tech companies come in, they come in like a flash mob. So it used to be a big plant would come in and we would know how long it would take to build it, and then we'd know how long it would take in phases to ramp up its employees, and it was fairly predictable. And even though the highways and other systems didn't meet that demand right away, it met it over time. But in the flash mob mentality of how these companies pop up, we can't address 30,000 people that just showed up in the last 3 years. I mean, the highway system 101, how Facebook wants a dedicated bus flyover and the rail bridge. If we sit and think about that in our traditional way, they're 35 years out of a solution. And that's not good enough for those companies. And I know those companies present some big challenges, but they also are presenting some very good economic growth. And so I've been trying to challenge people, and I'm pleased to see a private sector approach to the Dumbarton. I think that's a way, not that you shouldn't allocate all the money, but I think that we've got to incorporate that because they probably have faster ideas for financing that we can work into the system. So just a comparison of ACE compared to some other similar trips. I'm glad David Kotrosky is not here because I forgot his number, and so please do not pass that on. But Capital Corridor, they run 7 days a week, 15 round trips. They're carrying 1.6 million. So ACE is in the ballpark with these other systems, with a dozen round trips, but we're jamming them all into 4 in the peak period. So we continue to see ridership increase. That's not a testament to how great Kevin and I are. It's the highways are just killing people, literally and figuratively, as they deal with the stress of that commute. And they're going to jobs that really make their financial situations work. So you can't really be down on those people for seeking to do that. Who rides? You could probably take ACE off of there, and San Joaquin's you could plug in Caltrain, you could plug in Metrolink. Our demographics seem to be similar. People that ride trains for a good job tend to have the demographics that look like this, both in terms of age, education, income. Gender will split a little bit. We're trying to take a look at that gender split too. Someone asked the other day, well, is that matching who's in the workforce? And I don't know. So maybe we'll take a look at that and see if that really reflects anything or just happenstance. And then you see the industry. Of course, since we're geared to the Silicon Valley, high tech is our biggest employment for our riders. I know a lot of people talk about households and how many cars and all of that. The people who have cars won't ride the train. I think you can see from that chart on the upper left, people can have a whole bunch of cars. And if riding the train really gives them what they need in terms of just a better way to be productive when they have to get to a job or a business meeting, I think the number of vehicles, at least in the longer distances, really doesn't matter. And then Valley Rail Program is a combination of expanding ACE, so you see that big yellow line goes all the way down to Fresno and a little bit further. We've got some work we're doing between Fresno and Bakersfield on the San Joaquins, but it really seeks to consolidate. I don't like to see new systems come in and pick and pull and tear at each other. We're trying to take the San Joaquin intercity route and the ACE more regional commuter route, blend them together in the best, cheapest way possible. And we don't care what color the trains are. We don't even care what they're called. We just want to see some moving trains on the track and really in a consolidated way that makes sense, because we touch everything. We touch SAC-RT in Sacramento, we touch BART, we touch VTA Light Rail, we touch all the different bus systems, Capital Corridor, Caltrain. And so we don't need another set of competing priorities. So Valley Rail has been a bunch of elected officials, including Alameda and Contra Costa County, working together to see how this spine in the valley can deliver people to and from the urban centers in a little better way. So this is what we're looking at in our Valley Rail program. We were allocated almost $500,000 out of SB 132, a little over $500 million out of TIRSIP. And this all came in the last 12 months. So our program, we kind of were like the flash mob at Facebook, boom, now you're doing your big program. So all those circles you see that are open in the middle, those are all new stations that we have to build. The ones that are solid, they're already in existence. You see the route up to Sacramento, we'd always been thinking about, we need to get into downtown Sac, right? That's the logical thing. Well, a little bit of creative thinking said, there's really poor access to the Sacramento airport from the valley. And so if we just shifted our thinking a bit and went on a different line that Union Pacific's very willing to work with us on, we could make about a 9-minute shuttle connection from a Natoma station, which just really opens up airport travel. It's so hard for people to get to that airport. I mean, the choices are fight the Sacramento quagmire of freeways, fight into Oakland, fight into Sacramento, although you can take the ACE train to San Jose and go to that airport, so I encourage that too. But really, we're really trying to open this up. With this kind of investment, we want to make sure for each of the regions we're doing the best possible work that we can. And this just gives you an idea of scale. So each train you see there, each line is a round-trip train. By example, Sacramento right now just has 2. And so for our state capital, all the work that's done there, all of you that travel there, maybe up through the valley, that is a paltry and terrible number for providing business and commute transportation. So we are making a real effort with CalSTA to beef up access to Sacramento. We think it's been underserved for a long, long time, and we really see a lot of latent demand there. But you see, we take the program in the valley, between the valley and the Bay Area, and Valley and Sacramento, and we just about triple the service with that investment. So our focus right now, we'll be coming to you in October for some of the allocation requests. We've got a lot of final environmental clearances complete. We've got a few pieces that were added on at certain points underway, but we're about 20% away on that. And we've got long lead times. Rail doesn't happen. When you want to buy a locomotive, you can't go to a lot. It's 2 years at minimum, and it's 2 years if you have a production plant that's open. So thankfully, because of some of the state equipment procurement through Caltrans, there is a locomotive plant open, happens to be in California and Sacramento. So we're able to support a big local business. That's the Siemens production plant, and they make both locomotives and cars. And so we're looking at them for both. But you see on the slide, it's years to get some equipment. And so we're open to renovated equipment. Caltrain may have some equipment as they get electrified. We could renovate that. That's similar to our fleet. Metrolink has some equipment that, they've been holding for a while, but they may let go. And so we're willing to take that and renovate that. We really don't care about all the shiny stuff. We just want to get service on the ground. So we're really trying to find partners that we can work with on that. So we've got to finalize all those station locations, right? 18 or 14 or whatever it was. And that's a lot of work with the communities. We're lucky so far. We haven't had a lot of not in my backyard. Everybody is really embracing access because of the highway conditions. They want a choice. They want to send their kids down to college and come home on the train, not drive them, not give their kid a car. Just a lot of different reasons for doing that. And we're just launching into all the bid documents for the engineering work. We've got 2 major bridge construction projects of the railroad going over major rivers. And so that's got, as you know, from your work on the highway side, timing issues about when you could be in the waterways and do the work. So I asked take Kevin Sheridan from Andy Chesley over at San Joaquin COG because he's used to delivering these big projects with a lot of the complications. And I want to be ready so that we can hit the ground running. And really, we want to deliver this to the Valley. We've promised that we would take care of them. And the state really helped us with this allocation to do just that. Then the other piece of work I would call on the softer side of things that can get forgotten. We are very fortunate with Uber and Lyft now, first mile, last mile. Commissioner Gardino might remember this, but we had a lot of people in the early days that would take their car, a second car, over to Santa Clara and then drive from there. And that was another parking problem we didn't anticipate on the other side. But now with Uber and Lyft and others, that's getting easier. And we're very happy to see that because that can diminish some of the infrastructure needs. We are very supportive of CalSTA's work to do an integrated ticketing. A lot of the big agencies, they like their own, and they've invested a lot of money. So granted, it could be a little territorial, but we do think it should be simple. You can a ghost can buy you a ticket on everything, and you don't have to worry about who pays who. You just buy the ticket, and that's in the private sector. We do everything else that way, and I can't wait until we're able to do that with rail and bus and Uber and Lyft. And then in the Valley, we're very big on making sure the disadvantaged community process is in our program. And so we're going to be a pilot with CalSTA on their technical assistance program to make sure the TIRSA projects and the other big state-funded programs work their way into tangible benefits that are communicated, not just a side piece, but a tangible part of the program. And I know, Garth, I went over 7 minutes, but that was my zippy as best I could. Thank you.
Okay, do we have questions? I'll go this way and then back. Commissioner Gardino.
Thank you. Stacy, from the day we met 20 plus years ago, the 2 words that come to mind are positively relentless. This would not have happened without your leadership and the vision of some elected leaders, including a key leader who passed away,
Yes.
unfortunately. But thank you for making this happen. I still remember standing on the platform at the Diridon station when it opened and we started service, and I referred to the line as cow chips to computer
Yes.
chips.
I have a cartoon of that still.
And I'm not sure you appreciated
Not
that
then,
analogy.
no.
But what you've done with this, taking 6,000 weekday passenger trips off our roads, has just been tremendous. So I just want to
Well, thank you.
I just want to salute you for at a time when the average person in California will have 7 jobs over 20 years, that you have birthed this and seen it through to such amazing success over the past 20. So thanks for your commitment.
Commissioner Gometti.
Stacy, thank you for that presentation. I just have a couple of questions to fill in the blanks in my brain here.
Okay.
Is ACE running at capacity now with the 4 trains in the morning and afternoon?
We are. Each way there's one. So in the morning, most of the trains are near 1,000. That's all 4. And some are over. In the evening, our sweeper train that gets home into Stockton about 9 o'clock, that one's running about 350 riders, but so that's a true sweeper. But it means the other 3, the first 3 at home, are very crowded. So we have worked with CalSTA to get some higher horsepower locomotives. That was part of our first TRSIP application. So that gives us the capability. We are so lucky we have the Altamont Pass. Like nobody else in the rail world in California has a grade that they have to creep up and poke down. But we do. So we require a lot more traction power, and those locomotives from Siemens will let us pull 10 cars, where right now we can only pull 7. So that's a 30% capacity increase.
So that's how you're going to increase capacity, not adding more timely service?
We're going to do both. We're going to do both, but this is the quickest way we can add it.
Yeah.
And we are playing a little bit of chess right now with Union Pacific about when that additional train service can start.
Because there's a lot of housing being built out there now. I mean, if you can't afford a house in the Bay Area, almost no one can. You know, people are moving out to the Altamont, Tracy, Manteca, et cetera. So anyway, my next question is the Canela line. When are you going to open up down to my buddy's hometown here?
We are focused on 2023, and I think even with some of the complicated pieces, there's one piece in Lathrop where the current ACE line and the new line that goes down the valley come together. That's a critical piece. So that would be the only piece in my mind that could stall things. But Kevin is working on those well in advance. So everything else, the railroad knows our time frame. PG&E tends to be the one, like the utilities, right? Okay, so I want to caveat, we are trying to be on the front end of that. Utilities just kill everybody. And I told Jeff Morales that early on, the utilities are going to get you. And I have to take that advice myself because they're going to get us. We're building a double track, 24 miles of double track in a right-of-way where you find utilities.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions? Yes, Commissioner. Burke.
It's really exciting what you're doing, and could use it down south.
You got some good folks down there too. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stacy, for that update. So now we will move on to information calendar. Terry, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The next 8 items, numbers 31 through 38, are informational items deemed by staff to not raise any issues, and therefore individual items will not be presented unless specifically requested by a commissioner.
Do we have any special requests? Okay, thank you for that information. Okay, now we're going to move to the consent calendar. We have already taken a number of those items.
Yes.
And Terry, I'll let you summarize
Okay.
that before you
Okay,
address
hopefully I
the
get this
section.
right. Commissioners, there are 16 items on the consent calendar. However, items number 45, 52, and 53 were already approved at this meeting. With the remaining 13 items, please note the following changes as documented on the change list. Items 39, 40, and 50 have yellow replacements. Item number 48, resolutions of necessity. Resolution number C21633 was withdrawn. And item 49, Director's Deeds, number 7, has been revised and is included in the yellow handouts. And with that, with those changes, Commission staff recommends the Commission approve the 13 items on the consent calendar.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gardino, a second by Commissioner Medapper. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, I believe you already took item 55, so now we should be on item 56, if my record keeping is correct. And Jose, you're up.
All right, thank you. Item 56 is an action item. This is the final EIR, including Addendum 3 for the Metro Gold Line Foothill Extension Project. The final EIR determined that short-term air quality and noise impacts and long-term traffic, vibration, and visual impacts would be significant and unavoidable. The Metro Gold Line Foothill Construction Authority adopted a statement of overriding considerations, finding that the benefits outweigh the impacts. Staff recommends the Commission accept the final EIR, including Addendum 3, findings of significant impact, and statement of overriding considerations, and approve the project for future consideration of funding. Staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, item 57, Jose.
Item 57 is an action item. This is the final EIR for the State Route 84 Expressway Widening and State Route 84 Interstate 680 Interchange Improvements Project in Alameda County. Caltrans determined that adverse impacts could be mitigated to less than significant levels. Staff recommends your approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Alvarado. Any discussion? That was discussion. The discussion is aye. Okay. What about aye? Okay. Listen up, guys. Okay. Now, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carried. Okay, we'll move on. Jose.
Item 58 is an action item. This is the final EIR for the Matilda Avenue improvements at State Route 237 and US 101 project in Santa Clara County. Caltrans determined that adverse impacts could be mitigated to less than significant levels. Staff recommends your approval.
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gardino, a second by Commissioner Gometti. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Jose, you're up again.
Sure. Item 59 is an action item. This is the final EIR for the US 101 improvements project in Santa Clara County. The final EIR determined that impacts related to growth, farmland, and visual aesthetics would be significant and unavoidable. The Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority Congestion Management and Planning Committee adopted a statement of overriding considerations, finding that the benefits outweigh the impacts. Staff recommends the Commission accept the final EIR, findings of significant impact, and statement of overriding considerations, and approve the project for future consideration of funding.
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gardino and a second by Commissioner Gilmetti. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. On to item number 60.
Item 60 is an action item. This is the final EIR for the State Route 1 Lagunitas Creek Bridge project in Marin County. Caltrans determined that adverse impacts could be mitigated to less than significant impact. Staff recommends your approval.
I have a question. Is this the
Okay.
first time this project has come up on the agenda?
We'll have to ask staff.
I don't believe that is the case, but I can certainly research that and let you know.
I'm just trying to recollect if this is a different project from the other bridge project that was out there near Point Reyes.
I believe this is the same project. It came forward with a environmental overrun. Is that correct? And they
Yes, it
needed
is.
more money for this environmental document and the project report.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I'm
and-
just, yeah. My recollection was it was like kind of like a Cadillac project versus a regular project.
Yeah, and my recollection though is that there was the request did come back, and I'm looking at Stephen Mahler if you want to provide the specifics. There was additional explanation that the commission requested, and that information was provided.
Yes, that was done back a year ago, but I believe that they had to redo and revalidate the environmental document, and that's what's in front of you now.
Is it still 40% of the project?
I said,
Is it still 40% of the project?
oh, that I don't know.
Could
That
we-
we'd have to ask.
I mean, we'll probably
Caltrans
approve it
District
today,
Direct-
but could we get that information?
Jim
would
is
need-
here and can address that for you.
Still in District 4. Come on down.
He thought he could get away.
I was gonna say, good thing you're starting Monday, huh, Tony?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jim Davis, the Acting District 4 Director, for a few more days.
How many more hours?
Or maybe a few minutes, depends. This is the same project that Bijan Sartipi, my predecessor, brought to you twice before. We asked for an increase in support costs to address the concerns of the community, to come up with a design. What's before you is the final environmental document, which I signed here a few weeks ago, to move us forward for starting a design. And it's for a replacement of the bridge. There was a lot of contention on whether we were going to replace it or retrofit it, and we agreed on a replacement strategy.
But is the document still 40% of the project cost?
And are you within the cost that the commission supplemented for you?
Bear with me as I look for my fact sheet on that. I don't appear to have that. I'll have to get that information back to you, sir. I don't have it in front of me.
It's up to you, Tony. Good move, Jim.
Don't you hate it when it's old geezers have a good memory?
All right. I guess it's gonna go.
So the question, is there any more discussion on this? Can we postpone it? What would the impact be if we didn't vote today?
Well, I mean, even if it does come back, we're just gonna chastise them, and then the project's gonna move forward, so we might as well just get it signed today. And I would make that motion.
With or without the chastising.
But let's chastise them next meeting.
There you go.
Well, but I wanted Jim.
We had a motion already. This is the discussion part. A motion was already made, I
Okay.
believe, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm done discussing then. I'm disgusted, but I'm done discussing.
We didn't have a motion? Oh, we didn't have a second. Well, we do now. Commissioner Kehoe, who made the motion? Do we have? Oh, Gilmetti made it. Okay. Oh dear, it's been a long couple days in case.
Ah, boy.
Okay, let's. Commissioner Gilmetti made the motion. It was seconded by Commissioner Kehoe. We've had some discussion. Do we need to have more?
No.
Okay, then let's all vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Well, Jim, good job, I guess. So, question I had was, if that was the Cadillac before, what's this version?
I know, we're on our way to Rolls Royce.
It's a replacement bridge. It's a simple replacement bridge.
A simple one. Okay.
But isn't Jim?
Well, we know a bridge guy that's going to be available.
What did you just say? It was a simple replacement? Is that what he said?
Well, the bridge is a simple replacement.
Absolutely.
The other things that went with it weren't.
Jim, are you rolling in basically a structure that's going to be built next to it?
We're actually using the accelerated bridge construction technique on this. Right now, the design, as we're moving forward, would be to replace it in about 3 weeks. So build it off-site and then build it like Tinker Toys and put it back together here real quickly. So really reduce the impacts to the community and the resource agencies, and that's why we chose the replacement strategy. So it's a really, really efficient design and should be a showcase model of how we do bridge building in the future. So this is it's an incredible project.
And you've minimized the impacts to the community. That was the original objective.
Yeah, you've changed your approach then, because I remember the original approach to this bridge was going to shut down Point Reyes for quite a while.
We changed strategies, and we've made it about 3 weeks what we anticipate. Actually shut it down with the detour and then get in, get out very quickly.
Hold on, Jim.
Yep, that's an improvement.
We hope you feel the love, Jim. We have appreciated your efforts, so thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 61, please, Matthew.
Commissioners, tab 61 is an action item to approve the SB1 project baseline agreements and establish these agreements as the basis for project delivery and monitoring in accordance with the Commission's SB1 accountability and transparency guidelines. I also want to add that the attachments to this item were distributed as a yellow. Following this meeting, these fully executed baseline agreements will be posted to the CTC website. For this meeting, a total of 11 SB1 baseline agreements have been submitted from various SB1 program projects which are coming forward for allocation, including 2 SHOP projects. Staff would like to recognize that Caltrans has been a responsible and diligent partner throughout this baseline agreement process. Staff has reviewed these baseline agreements and finds them consistent with the Commission's SB1 accountability and transparency guidelines, as well as with the respective program guidelines and program actions. Therefore, staff recommends your approval of tab 61 with the following minor revisions. For the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program and SHOP multi-funded project, the California-Mexico Border System Network Improvements Project, under recitals in section 3.2 of the baseline agreement, the date of the SHOP adoption should be read as March 22nd, 2018, and not March 21st, 2018. And for the Solutions for Congested Corridors Program and SHOP Program multi-funded project, the San Diego North Coast Corridor Phase 1 project, under the recitals section of 3.2 of the baseline agreement, the date of the SHOP adoption should read as March 22nd, 2018, and not August 2017. And under the general provision section 4.2, the resolution number of the adoption for the SHOP program should read as G18-13 instead of 16H-017. That concludes the minor revisions to this item.
We have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Any discussion? I see we have Mark Baza out there. We might want to call him forward just to make his trip meaningful all the way from Imperial County. So, Mark, did you want to add anything?
He's a very smart man.
We do appreciate your commitment, so thank you. I'd pull your strings a little bit, but anyway. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? That motion carries. Okay, we're going to keep working. Is everybody good? We'll keep going a little while. Okay, good. Item 62, Terry.
Commissioners, item 62 is a department information item. There is a yellow replacement included with your material. Annually, the Commission is required to evaluate and report on Caltrans' progress towards reducing deferred maintenance and improving the conditions on the state highway system. Bruce DeTerra, Caltrans' Chief Division of Programming, will provide an update on the department's progress.
Thank you, Terry. Bruce DeTerra, Caltrans Programming. Thank you. That's really helpful. You can help me do that too. Before I begin, I did want to point out the historic moment that you've observed and maybe you didn't observe, that we have 3 District 4 directors here in the room with us, all associated in one way or another with the project we just discussed, the Lagunitas Brewing Company delivery ramp, or the Lagunitas Bridge, but you've got the father of the project, the current stepfather of the project, and the future adoptive father of the project, all in this room together. So I think they all collectively enjoyed this.
You might need a mom for this project.
I think that's probably the issue there. So yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes. So now I am in a similar role on this, where the reducing deferred maintenance and improving the conditions on the state highway, where we're providing an annual report. You have a brief write-up in there, and then a spreadsheet identifying the set of shop projects that the commission has taken allocation actions for in the 17-18 fiscal year, starting in August of last year and continuing all the way through the June meeting. So I'm going to discuss those because those are the projects that are providing what it is that you're asking for, but it doesn't provide everything that you're asking for, and I'm going to address that in a little bit. So in particular, these are the ones funded by SB1 funds, RMRA, and I'm focusing on the 4 asset classes that are of particular concern to the commission, the 4 classes that you adopted of bridge, pavement, culvert, transportation management systems. And these are where we have performance targets that were adopted by the commission and also set within SB1 and what it is that we're trying to achieve with these funds. And so the rest is redundant there, but I'm also going to bring in the maintenance projects that the commission is not taking action on adopting, because those maintenance projects are very important to our achieving the targets. They're essential to it, and I'll be explaining a little bit more about that. And then Tony can take responsibility and credit for all those maintenance projects coming forward. So he's wearing a too good hat thing. He's going to deliver an actually constructed bridge that only takes 3 weeks to put in place, and he's developing or delivering all of this maintenance progress you're going to see. So for the bridges, we have 121 projects that have received RMRA funding within the last fiscal year. Now, the total value of those projects is over $2 billion. There was not $2 billion worth of RMRA funding provided. And within the table that you have, it identifies how much RMRA funding has been provided for each phase. And that's identified for both bridge, pavement, and then the other 2 asset categories as well. So the actions you've taken primarily were the project development phases. So we're just getting those projects started. So what we have is coming up in the future, what we purchased through these actions that you've already taken is a $2.3 billion set of portfolio of projects to fix 240 bridges and replace 27,000 feet of bridge rail. But that hasn't happened yet. It's what's set in motion. So assuming those projects continue forward and they are a priority for the department, that is what will be delivered as each project is fully constructed and we report back. For pavement, there are 117 projects at almost $6 billion in total value that achieve almost 4,000 miles of improved pavement. I'm looking at the 2 screens going, boy, I sure am redundant up there. I don't know if you see that. I'm looking to the next one there. And then for the culverts, so we have culverts and drainage systems. So in addition to culverts, we have things like pump stations where we are pumping out water from below grade facilities on the freeway system and elsewhere. Somebody needs to pick up their own phone there. And so we don't have we have a lot of projects within there, but they're not as high a cost, and so we can tackle those rather quickly. And then the TSM transportation. Yeah, look at that! I flipped those letters around again. I always do that in one slide, and this time I caught it instead of you guys catching it. So that I'm happy about. So there are we fix a lot of field elements, as you can see, quite a few, thousands of them that we're fixing, and that's critical to the functioning of the entire transportation management system. And then 89 miles of new cable, where it's non-functioning or something needs to be replaced. So for the maintenance program, so as you'll recall, SB1, it's the road repair Accountability Act, well, a lot of that repair is taking place at the front end, and they can get out and they can start out there quickly, and they can start work quickly. So there are 50 projects at $228 million that are already delivered under the maintenance program, and then also the bridge and the safety. And unfortunately, I don't know the miles offhand, and I suspect as brilliant as Tony is, he probably doesn't offhand know the actual miles of what those 50 projects delivered. But what this is all doing is it's moving us towards meeting our performance targets that were set by the commission with the target year of 2027, and that's in SB1 as well, to reach that 90%, the 98.5% and such. So next commission meeting, Michael Johnson, the state's asset manager, is going to give you the 2017-18 annual report, which is required on the asset management program and what it's achieving. So what Michael's report takes a look at is what it is that's been selected within the 10-year portfolio of projects and what's being delivered and what the targets are and the deterioration rate of the system itself. So he's comparing what we're doing through all the projects, including projects beyond SB1 funding, but what the whole portfolio of investments are doing to achieve the targets compared to how rapidly the system is deteriorating, to tell you what the forecasted performance is going to be in 10 years. And that's what you're asking, what I believe what this report is asking us to do is to tell you on an annual basis how we're doing through these set of projects and actually achieving the goals. And so the asset management will tell us that big picture. For the individual projects and how they're doing and actually getting done and staying on track and those kinds of considerations, the fourth quarter delivery report for the 2017-18 fiscal year that includes all of the projects you've taken action for in 2017-18, that report is also being delivered at the October meeting, and that's by Mike Keever. So I come the Mike and Mike brothers that for the asset management and actual project delivery to give you the full picture of what the department has achieved in fiscal year 17-18 to actually deliver the whole set of SB1 projects that you voted on in that fiscal year. So you'll get to see. So we'll go ahead and flag all the SB1 projects within, and I love being up here so I can say what Mike and Mike are going to do in a month from now, but flag the projects that, that are addressed in the set of projects you received today that were the SB1 RMRA funded projects and see where they are in the status of their delivery, where the promise was made for the delivery commitment to see, well, are we still on track to deliver those projects individually? And that'll be as of the conclusion of June of 2018, that report for that full year of all the projects that were adopted. Plus, it'll have all the other projects that the department is delivering, but we'll call out that subset in order to give you that clear picture. So that the report today tells you what it is you've invested in and what the expected performance goals are for each individual project. Within that spreadsheet, as you look to the far right of it, it tells you actually how many units of linear feet, square feet, whatever the measurement was, of the asset that's being done by that project. But it doesn't tell you where that project is in actually achieving that brand new pavement yet. And that's part of the mix between those two reports. So in the future reports, all of this will align because we'll actually have projects that are being completed rather than just started. And we'll be able to show you where the completed projects are actually starting to move the dial. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, questions? Paul?
So when we approved the shop
yes,
back in March, we then go back and amend the shop over at subsequent meetings.
Yes.
So it's very difficult for me to follow along when we have new shop allocations or because I want to go back and check to see if it was here, but we've done subsequent amendments to this. So is there a tool that you could give commissioners so that we could somehow in real time see what's currently in the shop, so that when we're going through our agenda and looking at projects for allocation, we can see, okay, it may not be in here, but we subsequently put it into the program Because all I have is a snapshot in time from March, and it's already out of date.
Yes.
It's been very difficult for me to track some of these projects.
Understandable that's the case. The shop that's a plus and a minus for the shop, that it's dynamic and it's
Right.
constantly, every commission meeting, literally,
Right.
you're adopting new projects. Some of them are safety and emergency projects where we have to be reactive like that. Others have other kinds of reservations, but some are also the RMRA projects that are coming in. We may have new capacity or some other project is delayed, so we move a project in. We're working on a lot. So it is very dynamic, and the status of individual projects change with time. Some of this, you're seeing far more changes than what you would have seen in the past because you're now taking actions on every one of the project delivery phases, whereas in the past, the department handled a lot of that on our own, and you didn't see all those changes that happened. But now you're seeing all of them and taking action. As far as having access to this, every commission action that you take on these projects, whether it's an official action, we record through our CTIPS system, and that's not an acronym that'll flow off, or somebody in the audience can say what CTIPS is. I just know the acronym CTIPS. It's a computer-based program that we work with our partner agencies and the commission to provide that project data. We can provide access. You have entitlement to that. It is open to the public to look at that, but we could try to put something together so that it's much clearer to you where, when you're going to take the actions, where all that fits into the bigger picture.
I'd appreciate that.
And I realize the shop document, for those of us that grew up in the analog age, is a very convenient thing that I can open the book and flip through it, and instead of having to search through a bunch of digital files and figure out how they all align together. But we could also look at that, of producing that document
I don't
more
want you to
regularly.
produce more documents. If it is really a dynamic and it changes, so an online tool would be helpful.
Yes, so we can work on doing that and then providing the kind of guidance you may need to actually utilize such a tool. And it's also then searchable, and you can organize your files.
Okay, Director Branson, did you have something to add?
Bruce, I had a question when I looked at the report. I was wondering, it talks about, what is repaired or the pavement replaced.
Yes.
What I don't see in here is in SB1, it talked about fair and good. And, as far as the targets that we're working to achieve. So is it right to just assume that everything you're doing, like on these attachments, is bringing those conditions to good? Or, because it just talks about lane miles, but it doesn't talk at all about what improvements, what level of condition you're going to bring that to while you do that repair.
Yes, that's an excellent question, and it goes to the performance targets. Some of the roadway is going to go from poor condition to fair, and some will go from poor condition to good, and some may go from fair to good. I mean, when we do the projects, the roadways, the same set of roadway within a project has many different conditions on it. The entire roadway is not poor. Portions of it are poor, and portions of it are fair, and portions of it are actually good. So this is the moving it from poor to fair or good, or from fair to good.
So Bruce, if I could, Ms.
Does that help?
The commission is responsible for reviewing and evaluating the work that has been done, assessing the performance of Caltrans this year. And with this report, where it just talks about lane miles, there's insufficient information. I know there's another report coming in October, but what we need to see is information on what is going to happen with what kind of improvement, what level of performance are we expecting from the investment, good or fair. And if this report could come back with that information, that would be greatly helpful.
Sure, we'll dig in and get what the actual miles or feet going from one condition to the next condition. We'll look to do that before the October meeting.
And actually, the department has started with the shop votes now. Under the shop vote item, you will see that it shows the condition of the pavements or the bridges and how they're moving from condition that exists to the condition that will happen once this project is done, once the project that's allocated is done. It has it in the good, fair, and poor conditions specified in those votes.
Right.
Well,
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just think it's important in terms of the accountability and transparency that we keep the discussion clear and understandable. So to Commissioner Van Kleinenberg's point of, having a starting point of where we think we are and then what we've done and where we are, I think what we're trying to show is what we've accomplished, but it gets a little bit confusing. And so if we can have a good way of communicating that, and the confidence level, I think, will be elevated.
Well, that's going to be happening, but over time, because you will not achieve those conditions until the project is finished.
Okay.
But when they start the project, when you give them the allocation of funds to do the construction, right now their commitment is to show you what is the current condition of that stretch of highway and what will be achieved once this project is done. So that's laid out now in all of the SB1 votes that you're going to be doing later on the agenda.
Well, but knowing how good I'm going to feel once it's done is different from knowing that it's coming, right? So I don't know. I find all of this to get a bit confusing in terms of really being concise and clear. So, from someone who works with an asset-based company and spends a lot of time trying to understand these things on the private side, it just seems like there should be a good way for us to be able to effectively communicate to the public where we are and how we're doing.
Yeah, we'll look to see whether we can create some sort of dashboard that can be consistently utilized across projects and program areas so that it clearly communicates what it is that that project is accomplishing.
Well, just by example, Bruce, so you talked about one part of the segment might be in poor condition and it's going to fair, and somebody else might be in poor and going to good. Well, from a layman's perspective, you're thinking, well, how are we,
right.
Where's the equity?
So that there would be portions of the highway that are fair, poor, and good within the entire project limits. So the whole setup of highway would be brought to good condition, but the change would be different. Some of the good highway would also be repaired because you can't do those patches. You do the whole,
okay,
the whole
I understand.
highway. So we can identify how many miles was in poor condition that will go to good, how many were in fair that are going to go to good.
Okay, I think that's good, and with a little perhaps footnote or something, because otherwise, if I'm someone who has a bunch of poor rankings, I'm going to say, what about me? And, when are we fixing that one? So, yes.
So should this yellow that you gave us?
Yes.
Should this be exhaustive in terms of all the shop projects that are currently under construction?
No, these would only be the shop projects that have received RMRA allocations by the commission in fiscal year 17-18. So if you would like the entire shop for all asset categories, that would look significantly different.
Okay, I'm seeing projects. I'm not seeing projects that I know are currently underway.
Yes.
On this list, but I know that they're being done right now. So that's where the disconnect is difficult. I thought we voted on them in the 17-18, but maybe I can get with you after the meeting.
And that is clear. That is clear. So the RMRA funding is specifically that account coming out of SB1.
Okay.
And
so there could be other shop programs that are
there definitely are many other projects that are also doing performance of the system as a whole that are improving that. Some of them are by our partner agencies when they're doing their projects as well. So if we want to, so that's the part of this where the asset management program captures everything and then reports on how the entire universe of those projects is affecting the entire state highway system.
Okay.
So we can see, so this, and within the item write-up itself, it talked about this is kind of like the outlier for the years, because this is the first year and a lot of these projects were just voted in June and May, and so and the shop was adopted in March. So these projects haven't started producing results yet that you can see, and everything at this point is a forecast of achievement, as Stephen suggested there.
Okay.
And I have
Thank you.
one more question for you. It's really for the Mike and Mike show that's going to be coming in October. They're going to report on how they're doing towards the goals, performance goals that are to be achieved by 2027. And then are they going to report on the benchmarks for the year?
Mike would.
Which Mike?
That just
One
occurred
or
to me.
Mike two?
Mike Johnson would be referencing the benchmarks, probably not Mr. Kiever. That he would be talking about the delivery.
So
meeting
we're,
their
so we're going
targets.
to get both. We're going to get how you're doing towards the goals in 2027 and how you're doing against the benchmark was set for the fiscal year.
Yes.
All right.
And Mike Johnson is probably cursing me right now for saying that too.
Me too.
Yeah. But you don't have to leave yet.
No, now I have to leave.
Leave us
Thank
some
you.
good notes, Stephen. Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. So, speaking of bridges, Stephen, before you depart, when we did our Sonoma tour, we toured some bridges that were on our infamous deficient bridges.
Yes, our local seismic retrofit bridges.
Yeah. So when are we going to get any update on that? If any of our letters were effective?
Well, Terry is working very hard on accumulating the statistics from the responses, but I believe 3 agencies did not respond, and Terry is recontacting those agencies to see that they get the message or not. But the rest of the agencies that we sent letters to have responded and have laid out their schedules for their bridges.
Okay, we have that on an agenda item, and if our first letter wasn't effective, we have to figure out if it's an in-person meeting or what could help.
So Susan will,
Yes.
on my vacation, Susan will send me personally to those bridges.
Oh, that's right. You're just going on vacation, so we can make you work during your vacation. That's easy. That's good. Okay, moving along here. Item 63, Terry.
Commissioners, items 63, 64, 65, and 66 are projects requesting an initial construction allocation with costs that exceed the programmed amount by more than 20%. Item 63 is a department action item requesting a construction allocation of $7.4 million. Commissioners, please note that you were provided a yellow replacement for this item. To satisfy a permit requirement of this project, a separate mitigation project will be split out from this project, and the construction support for that project will be programmed in fiscal year 1920. This is a collision severity reduction project that proposes to build a roundabout at the intersection of State Route 12 and 113 near the city of Rio Vista. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Dunn. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Yes.
We might as well bring Mr. Davis back up one more time. You know, this is a highly used commercial route, you know, SR 12. The trucks by there all the time. And for the love of me, I don't know why your design team designed a standard roundabout when they knew there were so many big, large trucks coming through this area. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, sir. First of all, Jim Davis, Acting District 4 Director, for a few less minutes. Yeah, what's interesting, this is our first roundabout in District 4, not the first roundabout in Caltrans. What's unique about this particular roundabout is Highway 12 coming into 113 is a high-speed facility, 55 miles an hour. 113 is a north-south route with a stop sign, and so we're bringing a roundabout because we have a lot of collisions and fatalities occurring there. What we did is we designed a system to slow down traffic coming into 113 into that roundabout. But not having experience, what we did is we sought expert outside peer review to bring some more expertise in to take a look at it. And they made some recommendations for us to do a little bit different design to make it a little bigger and to start the transition a little sooner with more signalization and lights and flashing beacons, those types of things, further ahead of time to help slow down traffic coming into it, because it is a collision and safety project. And so that's what impacted this project. I think it was doing our due diligence and seeking expert advice in a situation that was really unique so far to Caltrans.
Yeah, I'm just surprised it wasn't done earlier in the game, that's all.
So Jim, we did have the California Trucking Association here, so hopefully you guys all talk to them on a regular basis, because I too have concerns about roundabouts and our Class 8 vehicles, because I did get to drive one yesterday, and I can tell you I wasn't hauling a container, but those are big rigs. So, and for the record, that was on private property, so within the law.
Chair Inman, I just want to go, the Caltrans did a roundabout on Highway 49 that was open last year. There were a lot of concerns by the trucking community, and the district did set up cones for what a roundabout would be at the fairgrounds, and had the guys bring out their 53 footers, and once they did it, they said, oh, that's no problem at all.
Okay.
So it does work with the 53 footers if it's designed correctly. So
Okay, but working with the 53 footers versus a 53 footer and a little car dashing around, I think is different dynamics too. So as long as we're good, as long as we have our partners, because at the end of the day, we want to build things that work. And so let's just keep
I know,
the
sorry,
lines of
Bobby.
communication. Yes, Commissioner Dunn.
So just a quick question for an amateur here is how much time passes between the time you do this engineering and design work and then the time we realize it's 97% over programmed amount? What's the window there where that learning curve happens?
So usually the design phase, once we have project approval and the environmental document, which is our PAD milestone.
I'm looking for months or years.
It depends on the project.
In this case.
I don't have that in front of me, but probably it's a safety job. I can get that information for you.
Okay. We good? Everybody's good? Okay, that was, I think we're good, so thank you, Jim. Okay. Any further discussion?
So moved. Do we have a motion yet?
We have a motion already, yeah, we were just chatting, so yeah. So just call for the vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, we're good. Motion carries. We will move on. Terry?
Madam Chair?
Oh, yes. Debbie?
Debbie Hale, Transportation Agency for Monterey County. The risk of slowing down your tremendous progress today. I just want to point out that in Monterey County, we installed a roundabout teardrop at the intersection of Highway 1 and Highway 68 at the Pebble Beach Gate and Major Hospital. And next week, they're going to be taking all kinds of trucks through there for Car Week, and it worked tremendously well. It's all about the design, and I'd love to have the opportunity to present our videos that we're going to take next week, so you can see and have our engineer talk a little bit about some of the specific issues that they addressed to make sure that trucks could use it correctly.
Thank you, Debbie. We appreciate it. Yeah, we'd love for you to share, so that'd be great. Thank you. Thanks for coming forward. So, okay, we're on a roll here today. We'll take a few more items before we call it a day. So I believe we are up to what?
64?
64. 64? How'd I get past that? Okay, I'm good.
Okay, Commissioners, item 64 is a department action item requesting a construction allocation of $6.6 million. This is a project that will improve the condition of roadway pavement on State Route 23 in Ventura County. The increase in capital cost is due to a decision made and designed to switch to a longer life pavement strategy with a thicker pavement structural section and the additional work shifts needed for the contractor to construct it. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends commission approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Arp, a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to
Commissioner
ask the
Dunn.
same question because I really want to know. Look, you guys, my issue is that construction costs are escalating and competition is tough. And we have a finite source of money and we have new rules of accountability that we have to, take very seriously. So I want to know, how long did it take you guys to determine that you needed to change direction? If you told me that this decision, it took 2 months, oops, we realized we made a mistake, 2 months, turn around quickly and go. But I'm looking for that time delay, especially as construction costs are escalating so quickly right now. So could you get back to me with that information as well? And start, if we're going to ask for, if you're going to ask for more money exceeding the programmed amount by more than 20%, I want to know how quick and nimble you guys are in coming to that decision. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any further comments, discussions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, item 65.
Commissioners, item 65 is a department action item requesting a construction allocation of $7.9 million. This project proposes to preserve the existing Los Angeles River Bridge by cleaning the rust from the steel girders and repainting the affected areas. The bridge is located on I-110 in the city of Los Angeles. During the final design, additional information regarding how the project would be constructed was determined. This resulted in the use of specialized equipment to perform the inspections as well as increased traffic management. This represented the increased need for construction support. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends commission approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burke, a second by Commissioner Madaffer. Is there discussion? Commissioner Gilmetti.
Yeah, it came to my attention when we were reviewing this project that most of this estimate was done in the office, and in my opinion, people get out and walk a job. This is an existing bridge, et cetera. And I don't know why the department doesn't have a program where your estimators get out there, walk the job first, take a look at the complexity of it, and then put together the estimate. So I'm hoping, Lori, that maybe a memo can go out to all the districts that remind them to go do a field visit before they complete their estimate. Sure. Thank you.
I'd second that recommendation.
I've read the report. I'm still not clear. I understand that there, because they found, they're going to deal with the encapsulation of the lead paint and things like that. I understand why the construction costs will go up. I guess I don't get why we're going up 111% on the support. What is in the support? Because the discovery that there's lead and the inspection, that's one thing, but this is it's a big jump, and I guess I don't understand.
Yeah, and it is more than that. Initially, they assumed a strategy in which they could build scaffolding underneath the bridge to do the inspection and the work.
But isn't that the contract? That would be in the actual in the capital to do it, wouldn't it? It's not in. Why would that be in the support?
Yeah, there was some reflection in support, but I believe.
Well, I think the department should come up and answer that question.
I think that's
exactly.
smart. Do we have Shirley here? No, doesn't look like Shirley, but
I think we have Robert Saul here.
pretty sure.
No, I'm not Shirley.
Okay.
The interim district director is out of the country. My name is Robert So. I'm the deputy district director for program project management. To answer your question, Commissioner, yes, the department, when they estimated originally to program the project, the team thought this was a very simple project because it's just painting a bridge. And what they did to estimate the support cost was to use a simplified method of support to capital ratio. So that's not the best method. It should be more of a bottoms-up method to get a very accurate estimate. But I think you're right. We needed to do a better job, and that's the lessons learned for this. So during the design phase, they found out that they could not do it the way they, from the bottoms, from the bridge, so they had to go on the top. Also, this project was supposed to be delivered in this fiscal year, 18-19, but the project was accelerated because the department wanted to have the shop funding cash flow more in the 17-18 fiscal year. Original strategy was to get TCEs and from the railroad and also permits from the Army Corps. And because the project was accelerated, we had to change strategies. We didn't have time to do that, so we went from the top. So we were able to deliver this project. Unfortunately, you're correct. We need to have some lessons learned, and we need to do a better job of anticipating these risks. But we did take those risks, and so that's one issue. The going from the top required traffic handling, as well as if you go from the bottom of the bridge, it didn't require as much traffic handling. So that's why there's additional support costs involved in doing that. So there was a mistake made, and also the strategy of going from the top versus going from the bottom requires additional support costs.
So the change in the traffic control was $500,000, is that correct that I'm understanding?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. What takes into account the additional the additional $500,000 in support costs?
And that, again, that was the mistake that we made, thinking that this was...
What did you spend the money on? The support money?
We haven't spent anything yet.
Okay. Okay. What do you want to spend the money on, I should say?
Well, again, it was a mistake in estimating in the originally, assuming that...
I get that. What are you going to spend the additional money on in support?
Inspection, making sure that the environmental scaffoldings are false work are safe, and dust control and so forth.
So it's oversight.
Yeah, oversight.
Yes, Commissioner, what they'll be doing is they're going to be hanging all of the scaffolding from underneath the bridge, not from building it up from the ground up. That takes a lot more inspections, people inspecting it so that it's safe to be working on. So it'll take a lot more time to do it.
Get their cantilever off the top.
Did you have something you want to add?
Yes, Commissioner Inman, thank you. My name is Mike Keever. I'm the Acting Project Management Division Chief for Jim Davis till he comes back. Perhaps I could...
So is it really going to be a Mike and Jim show next month, or?
Mike and Mike, Mike and Jim, Jim and Bruce, we're a team. If I could attempt to address some of the questions on these projects in general, going back to Commissioner Dunn's question about the time, we're attempting to do what we believe is the Commission's intent, which is we're in the delivery year. And so during the design phase, if you find a change occurs in the delivery year, your opportunity to update your costs is precisely this action, which is to request a greater than 120 before we go and ask you for our final allocation in order to go out to advertise. And so because we're accelerating projects, a lot of our work, a lot of the assessment that takes place is in the design phase, which occurs in that final year, the delivery year. And so this is our opportunity then to try to get ahead of the changing bidding environment, for instance, that we find ourselves in, and request from you this adjustment in our greater than 120. And so that's what you're seeing with several of these projects. Doesn't mean that we haven't made other, there aren't other areas that we could improve upon, but we believe this is the intent of the Commission to come to you ahead of time, reflecting the changing environment and giving you our most up-to-date information.
Okay, well, we appreciate ahead of time versus after the fact, but I think, 120 is even hard for us, just because 20% is a lot of money. And so if it's greater than 120, the numbers just keep growing. So I think it's a challenge for all of us. So however we can be better, and I think we understand the change of of the work that needs to be done, but when the support seems to be growing faster than the change in the work, sometimes that gets difficult for us to comprehend. So, any other commissioners? We all good?
I might only add that the costs that we're seeing have gone up more than 20% in the year. And so it's possible in some cases that the projects are accelerating faster than our opportunities to update them.
That's my point.
Well, I mean, we're going into a tough market then, so maybe we have to think about
Requiring that every
scheduling.
one of us be more nimble and more on the ball about making those changes as soon as we can. Yeah.
Because at some point, we're bidding against ourselves.
That's my point.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion. I think we've exhausted our discussion. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, we have one more in this set, I believe,
Yes,
Terry.
you do. Commissioners, item number 66 is a department action requesting a construction allocation of $6.4 million. This project proposes to construct a new crew building and a new equipment building at the Mojave Highway Maintenance Station located on State Route 14 in Kern County. A majority of the increase in capital cost is due to the update of material costs to reflect the increasing market prices on building items. In addition, when final design was submitted for review by the state fire marshal, it was identified that the facility's fire suppression system was inadequate. The necessary upgrades to the system increased the capital cost. Commission staff has reviewed this allocation request and recommends commission approval.
Okay, we had a motion by Commissioner Alvarado, a second by Commissioner Arp. Questions? Commissioner Dunn?
Comments, ditto, all of the above from the previous ones. So,
Okay, anybody else? I mean, I just think, how can we be better and not have these significant, I mean, the change in the capital cost is one thing, but the support, these numbers are just tough for us.
I think
Sure.
I think a lot of the comments are well taken, but frankly, I don't know if any of you have had any work done around here, any remodeling work done lately. The prices have gone crazy, and everybody that's doing this kind of work has got all the work they want to do. So prices are just really high right now. The market's overheated. I think we just need to consider that no matter how nimble we are, we're not going to avoid some of the increase in costs. It's just going to happen, and we got to try to deal with it as best we can.
But Commissioner Arp, the price that we're getting from our contractors versus the overhead and the support is, I mean, these support costs, I think, are what a lot of our comments were headed towards. I realize it's a tight market out there and the labor is short, so your prices are going up.
Yeah, I think particularly the comments regarding, going out and doing a walkthrough on a project before you make an estimate, those things are really, pretty basic, and I think it's, right on target. So I'm not discounting everything that's being said. In fact, I'm supporting a lot of it, but I just think that we need to be a little bit cognizant that Caltrans is dealing with a lot of contractors who don't really need to work that much, and so they're going to charge a lot of money.
Director Berman, did you want to jump in, and I'll come back to you, Paul?
I just want to say, I understand what you're all saying about not the cap, I can't, the support costs. I can't say it. We're going to go back and talk about how we can do a better job. We're obviously trying to do the best we can with accelerating a lot of projects. We are taking a lot more risks, but I hear what you're saying, and so we'll come back and talk about how we can tighten that up.
Question.
Paul, did you want to add, and then I'll come to you.
I guess that's the issue. I mean, on this project that we're talking about right now, yes, the inspector came in and said, we want fire suppression, and that delayed and had more time in that. But I'd like a fuller explanation of these support costs. And I know probably some of the support costs was dealing with all that delay and dealing with the county and all that. But I think that these support costs going up, I understand the capital costs going up. I don't always understand why the support cost is going up.
Well, if I could explain a little bit, these support costs that we're talking about, these are the Caltrans employees that are on the job site, the resident engineers who are on there making sure that everything is constructed up to the specs, up to the plans. So that's basically the time that these people spend out there on the job.
I understand that, Stephen, but let's say the contractor comes in with a 10% higher bid. That doesn't mean that necessarily that the Caltrans employee is going to be on the job 10% more.
Well, that's correct, because
But if the contractor's bid, the capital cost goes up, we somehow automatically say, well, now we got to spend another 20% or 30% on support costs without really. I feel like sometimes we don't get a good full explanation on that.
Yeah, but this is before the contractor bids. These are allocations, so Caltrans can take these projects out to bid. The contractor's bid will not have any effect on these support costs that you approve now. These support costs is what Caltrans is estimating they need their people out there for as much as they need them out there. That's the support cost. Now, once these things are taken to bid, and the next set of allocations they'll be requesting of you is after a bid comes in, and then the contractor's bid is much higher than the allocation that you gave him, and that's a different discussion.
The public and the legislature are asking that Caltrans become a more lean, efficient organization. It has put in different benchmarks that we've gone through, including finding savings. And it seems like, though, when these support costs go up and up, I feel like there's a disconnect that we're not finding the efficiencies. And maybe we're talking past each other. I don't know, Stephen, but it is concerning, and we're charged with trying to shine a light on it. We don't have much power other than just shining a light on it.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Aparo.
I think part of our frustration is, irregardless of the bid, Caltrans comes and says, we're going to build this bridge or we're going to build this roadway, and it's going to take us whatever, 1 year or 10 years. So we're going to supervise this project for 1 year, we're going to supervise it for 10 years. So this is our timeline, this is our escalation for raises and whatever, CPA, and you get that, but there's a timeline. So, but then when it comes back in for these reallocations, what goes through our minds is they planned for this. They're going to be there for a year, or they're going to be there for 10 years, and that was built into the cost. So what changed? They're still going to be there for a year, or they're still going to be there for 10 years. That's what our frustration is, because we don't really know. Because remember when I first came on the commission, everything was pavement. Well, I went out and talked to the quarry guys, and no, pavement didn't go up. Well, then we found out, no, it wasn't really pavement. And so our frustration here is everything just gets lumped into the support costs. Well, we're having a hard time understanding them. Here's a year, or here's 10 years. Here's how much it was going to cost. Why all of a sudden now is it more like 60 or 90% jump in the support costs? We just don't know what you're lumping support costs in. So, when you have that conversation, you need to figure out how to communicate why support costs are increasing by 50, 60, 70%. Because we just can't understand that. I mean, what I did for a living, if I got supervision out there and I missed it by 60%, I'm toast.
I'm going to go, Director Berman, I think your light was on and off again, so then we'll
So
go
I
to
just want to say, I hear what you're saying, and I think when we come back, we will provide more detailed explanations of why sometimes we may realize we need different expertise as the scope of work changes, and that's why, but I'm not going to give you a bunch of what-ifs. We're going to come back with more specific information about why the support costs have gone up.
Thank you. Commissioner Madapper.
Thank you. I know we go through this from time to time, and it is very frustrating, and I know we hear as I recall. The previous director, there's a lot of projects we don't see where they never hit these numbers, so I get that. And that doesn't mean this one is okay. But I'm just curious, when I see 2.7 million was programmed for this, and now it's being adjusted by 178%, up another 2.1 million to a total of 4.9. When was the 2.7 programmed? Does anybody have a date? Was that a year ago, 6 months ago, 5 years ago? I was trying to get some context.
Well, that would be on each individual project, and I would imagine those were probably programmed 4 years ago.
I'm sorry, Mr.
They were
Mullin?
probably programmed 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
No, there's a bigger story to this.
Hold on, I think Brent's going to come and talk to us.
Yes, this project was programmed 2 years ago. 2 years ago, right. Okay. So, I mean, I get the issues. I see bird monitoring. I see things that have changed as a result. Again, and I feel for the folks that are doing the work, it's definitely tough, but these are those kind of things where sometimes to me, it's almost like, and I see the alternatives. It's like you scrap the project. It's probably going to just cost more later. But I'm just wondering, are there other ways that there can be consolidation with other facilities? I realize this is a remote desert facility and those types of things, but are there other areas of efficiencies, and I'll speak to both you and to Director Berman, where, again, to the points that we're hearing from some of the commissioners with respect to the support costs, are there other efficiencies that we could be looking at where this could be incorporated into another facility or something like that? Again, trying to figure out ways to save some money.
Yeah, understood. I'll go with Director Berman in terms of a more detailed explanation of the support costs. The majority of the cost increase here, like you pointed out, is in capital. And this is the first project that we've looked at on this list. It's a building project. And this is really a true manifestation, I think, of what we talked about at the last commission meeting, is that building costs, as separate from a highway project, there are different dynamics. On this particular project, one of the reasons that it's gone up so much, other than just quarterly index of projects, is what you pointed out, is that we tried to find a way to be efficient, like you're describing, through site design, through layout, through trying to move elements out. But at the end of the day, we had a risk to take. Either we do a new truck shed, we demo a crew building that's got asbestos, and not have a crew building. I mean, there wasn't any ultimate design that really met our needs in ensuring that our crew was in a safe facility. So we did go for the full project as opposed to pulling elements out that we felt were not the optimal solution.
Do you temporary buildings or any other type of construction style?
Yeah, we actually had a temporary
Working?
building. It was a trailer is essentially what it was.
Right.
It wasn't ADA compliant. We know that was there for a temporary period of time. It ended up being there for many, many years. We attempted to move that crew into another crew building that was already there. Turns out that crew building had asbestos and needs to be demolished. Right now, the crew is basically sitting in a truck bay that's not air conditioned in Mojave. So, we're in a situation now where we're kind of a minimal standard just to keep our crew functioning, as you pointed out, in a remote location.
Well, it is frustrating for us, and I'll certainly support the motion to move forward on this because I think the project has to be done. But I would ask Director Berman, again, I appreciate your comments that you guys are looking at this stuff. It would be nice to see if a lot of times some of these things, could this project be eliminated or folded into a different project that maybe is an extra 5 miles away or 10 miles? I don't know. I realize remote locations are that. And I know Mojave, it's out in the middle of, I know that road, I've driven it. So I just curious as to how we might be able to figure out ways. Again, to Director Paul's comments, we've got to figure out a better way to telegraph to the taxpayers, to the legislature and others that this commission is serious about asking Caltrans to be as efficient as possible, because out of all of the things that go on out there, it's the one big thing that we really need to fix. And I know you don't like it any more than the rest of us, and
Sure.
it's important to take care of it.
And excuse me, the location of our maintenance yards is really critical in terms of not just daily maintenance, but responding to emergencies. So trying to find other locations, we look for the most efficient location. We do have issues with maintenance yards being pretty much the end of their useful life and not a good place for our staff to be in. And so we don't want to find ourselves in a position where we have to put people in trailers, which is not as efficient, or quickly move them out and find ways to, we spend years getting these projects programmed. And I understand the frustration of costs going up, but that's the explanation I have for you today. I think we can do a better job of explaining project by project what went up.
Just one other thing. When we see some of these, and again, this would be more just for informational purposes, it would be interesting to, at some point, on projects that were of some controversy, such as this one here at the Commission, that we would later get a report back from the agency, from Caltrans, as to what did the final bid come in at? How is it coming along? If anything, it might give us a little perspective, just so we could see where those things were. This to me is just telegraphing to the contracting community, here's your blank check. Just you get right up to that line. I know that's tough, but that's kind of where it looks to me.
Well, and we don't want to overprogram, but we're in a position now where we're dealing with the fires. We know that that's going to also cause bids to go up. The utility companies are very busy cleaning up from the fires. That's going to be a problem. We're going to figure out how best to manage that, and I think we need to communicate better with the Commission as to how we're managing that.
Thank you.
Director Brownson, did you want something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a question for Brent. So this project was programmed in the 2016 shop?
It was an amendment in 2016.
Okay, and so my question is, I know the Commission has an expectation that the Commission just adopted the 2018 shop in March of 2018. And the expectation would be that all of the projects that haven't yet moved forward that had an estimate would be reassessed, and we would look at, that Caltrans would be looking at the estimates and making sure that they're current prior to the adoption of the 2018 shop. And I was wondering whether that happened, and if it hadn't happened, why not? Just to understand the process that was taken.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We could have done that. I think at that decision point where we were looking at, we need to decide whether we're going to downscope the project to stay within programmed amount or take the risk and go forward with the full project. And that's what we've done here. So we recognize that we're a little vulnerable there because we had an opportunity to change the cost and we didn't. We were trying to fine-tune the numbers, if you will. And I know that this particular cost, we don't want to come back again. So we have increased the contingencies on this. We have tried to do the right thing to try to anticipate the bids going up, the fewer bidders and things of that nature. So it's that whole spectrum.
Any more comments? Call for the question. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, with that, I think we're going to call it a day. I think we are probably at a good point where it's in everybody's best interest to say, we'll see you tomorrow.